Hello, everyone. It is Friday afternoon. It's our time with Thorn Wea Davis, and Thorn saying hello. Um, I asked Thorn what they want to discuss today, and they want to do a forecast for May and June of 2025. So we're going to actually start with the past week, the full moon in Taurus Scorpio. So we're going to start with the past forecast. Um, and then we'll go into the future of what's happening at the end of May and then through June. So what do you want to say about the full moon in Taurus Scorpio? That was at 22 degrees, right? Yes. Yeah, I think so. It was 22 degrees. Yeah. Um, it was very, very powerful, that energy. So because the Taurus, is working deep with the self security and how that shows up with self and resources and community resources and, stability and grounding, earth things, everything related to that. And then Scorpio is water, so that's working deeply and opening up and unpacking, what fears you have or what is covered up, and you have to face with that with the full moon. And I think that this one was the topic was the micro moon, meaning it looks smaller than normal. It's than a super moon, because a super moon is very big. It looks huge, but this was a micro one. It was very small. Um, but still it was beautiful. It was very powerful. So, and also Scorpio, pushes us to uncover, what is what makes us anxiety, what gives us anxiety in our aggravation around relationships or patterns, or what applies with, intimacy, or, what needs to be dealt with, what needs to heal, sorry. All these things, there's that strong polarity with that energy, for sure. So, yeah. Should we look into the Taurus and Scorpio rooms? Hold on. Okay, so the full moon was a mix of these two energies. So it's Taurus plus Scorpio. So it's, Taurus is all peaceful and it's calm and, and structuring and stable. And then that Scorpio moon is so kind of deep and dark and, like uncovering things like Thorne was saying. So, I think, you know, I think depending on the houses in your chart, you really want to analyze that opposite of houses, where that full moon happened, and say what was uncovered. It depends on the house for you. If it's in your sixth and 12th, maybe it's daily habits and work-life balance, or if it's in 5 and 11, maybe it's your creative life and your community. So really we have to analyze the two houses involved in your birth chart to see how that full moon really hit you. But I do think it's that mix of kind of peaceful and intense emotions. That's, yeah, intense is the word there. Yeah. Yeah. So now that was not an eclipse or anything. Yeah, no, no. Um, it it did feel like one, but it was not, because, it's closed out because recently the eclipse season closed. So it's all done, and so the next eclipse, until the next eclipse season. So, and notice in your birth chart, was anything at 22 degrees in your birth chart? So did it hit anything specific with you? I recently was talking with somebody who had that in the 11th house, that full moon, and they were saying that they had a friendship, break up. I'm not breaking confidential, I'm not telling you who, but, a friendship broke up. And it was like, it hit something in the 22nd degree in their 11th house. You know what I mean? So if it's really hitting a degree for you, you really want to analyze, what was that planet that was affected, So what's the next full moon or new moon? I guess we should look at the new moon. What's the next new moon? The new moon will be in Gemini and it'll be on the 26th. Um yeah, no, I'm wrong. It's May 26th. Okay. So what degree is that? That looks like it's at 6. So it's May 26th at 6 degrees Gemini. It's 6 degrees Gemini, you know. So notice in your chart, number one, which house is Gemini for you and what at the sixth degree? Because, that new moon will be a time for new beginnings, right? Starting some new conversation with Gemini. It's like some new conversation, some new idea, some new way of being mentally stimulated, So there's like a new energy happening with that one. Do you have any comments on the new moon? I would also add with the new moon, it's a time of where we can reframe opportunities. It's an opportunity to reset into a new cycle and a new vibe and a new month. What do we want? What do we hope for? What do we want to try to, succeed at during that time in that cycle? So, and also it depends on the person themselves, what moon phase they were born in. Because, for example, people who are born with the new moon, phase, themselves, maybe they feel more relaxed or more internally thoughtful and analytical on how to work with that energy. If a person was born during the full moon, maybe they're focused more on feeling, you know, release during that part of the cycle. It's more natural for them to, flow with that release, that rhythm for their, you know, whatever that looks like for them at that time. So, that's one thing that I do want to add and suggest that we could look at the moon phase for at birth, because that would give us an idea of how that relates to that vibe. Yeah. I think to add, if you were doing a ritual around the new moon, we want to involve a lot of air for that ritual, and air, I think in ritual can be writing, it can be ideas, words on a page. Maybe you write something, with new intentions or goals or manifestations or something, and like do something to make a ritual of that new moon, to just set the intention, you know. And also, if we feel that setting the intention is not resonating, instead of that, then you can make art like a collage or a poster or visual, something to look at instead of writing. Because Gemini also is kind of visual. It's very, it sparks a lot of interest with that kind of environment. So, that vibe too. So, and also, consider what kind of communication you want to initiate or reset, either of those or both of those, it's interesting because I think that this Gemini new moon could foreshadow the Uranus going to Gemini. So I think about like Jupiter in Gemini all year is kind of a foreshadow of Uranus in Gemini, what that will be like for 7 years. And then this new moon, we get that feeling of Gemini again. And it's like, what's happening for you? And it's really interesting for me. I picked up this zine from this publishing company called Microcosm. It's like this. I love that company. Yeah. So it's like, and I thought, I'm so excited for my zine. It's on queer platonic relationships, and I'm just so into this like independent company, publishing company I found. And I was just like, I want to get all their books. I mean, like one at a time, just go through all these books. And I was thinking that could be exciting for Uranus and Gemini. But maybe since the sun and moon are going to conjoin in Gemini, that could be the beginning of my microcosm love affair. Is I could set the intention at that new moon to really enjoy that Uranus and Gemini for 7 years. I mean, there's some Gemini theme flavor of reading, writing, talking, studying, as Thorne's saying, learning, publishing. all those things. Yeah. Like information media is, with Jupiter and Gemini, like we've been making all these talk shows, for 1 year. And it's just talk, 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 like what we're doing now. It's just like wanting to talk. And I think that's going to continue with the Uranus and Gemini. So this new moon will be a great time to set intentions for that whole energy sphere, you know. Plus, with this Uranus in general, when we look at Uranus energy itself, it's about sparking change, unexpected change, surprise energy, um, uh, it's like a catalyst energy is a different, to go into different directions. And so in general, that applies to Gemini. It could be like Andy said, media, books, discussions, conversations, all these things. And also to add to that, maybe there's a different frame for how, publishing can happen, because now with how, marketing is and publishing and all that, it's changing nowadays. So maybe this, Uranus will pop in a different process for that. Maybe, or the book companies or how they approach the system and how they're run and how book sales happen. It'll be interesting to see what this 7 year cycle brings for us. I'm curious about that and excited. And I think for you, Uranus will go through your 11th house of community, and it's yes. And I think we should add sign language. Linguistics and sign language could be added to your like your community of deaf astrologers could grow or something like that. Like we could add sign language to the mix there. It's not only written language, for sure. I do agree. It's not only ASL, but it could be any kind of signed language or the UK right now, the UK just recently, this week in May 11th to the 15th, the UK focused, on sign language and honoring British English Sign Language, and they were advocating for how to make that more accessible, how to, you know, integrate with the system, and I think that's part of foreshadowing for that Uranus and Gemini and the different countries and the systems with sign language and communication and advocacy and all these things. It could be a big part of it too. That's what I feel. Yeah, I think all language and linguistics will become highlighted with Uranus and Gemini. It will become exciting to utilize language in different ways. I know the Uranus and Gemini generation from before. They used to come to my lectures. I remember those the women would sit in the front row and they'd be like, "Oh, this is so interesting." They have Uranus and Gemini in their birth chart, and they read a lot of books. They're really interesting people. They're great conversationalists. So we're going to see them having their Uranus returns. So that'll be cool. Um, so, yeah, that Uranus return. When does Uranus go into Gemini? I have to look. I have to find that. Okay, it's July. See, now it's May. Yeah, Uranus and Gemini is July 8th. July 8th, this summer. So that's funny because that day is the day before my 1 year anniversary of my surgery. Oh, well, that's awesome. Wow. Okay. Okay. You'll be signing your ass off. You'll be like, oh, no. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's, what that 7 year cycle brings. Yeah, I'm very excited for Uranus and Gemini. Uranus in Taurus has been a little bit slow. It's been slow. Yeah. It's been excitement through the little things, like makeup, wardrobe, beverages, like all, food and drink, so it's been interesting and fun in that way, but I think it will be very exciting to have it in Gemini. It's like in an air sign, so that will be exciting. Are you excited for that change? I think that I will become more excited when Jupiter goes into Cancer in June, and then when I get that vibe, you know, of Uranus going into Gemini, I'll become more excited as it's closer in. So, okay, so let's go back to May because we're talking about, oh, and I want to add for Uranus and Taurus, I just want to say it's not only the little things, and the celebrations, but also the general impact, because Taurus is, land and food and trees and nature. Um, we've seen 7 years of a lot of issues and discussions about how to cherish nature, forest parks, advocacy, keeping the forest safe and not allowing the system to damage those things, and food seeds, feed seed security, um, how to plant indigenous, you know, native tribes in their land, how to get them their land back, and the revolution. There's been a lot of things connected to the land with Uranus and Taurus. So it's interesting to see that. But in shifting with the Uranus and Gemini, that's fascinating to see the shift and how that's going to happen. Yeah, yeah, I'm wondering, I'm curious. Yeah, I'm so excited for that. Gemini's in my first house. I'm so gem. It's like I'm just gonna be like popping. I'll be like for like 7 years. That's my 11th, so it could be good for both of us. Like, yeah, it's like you have Gemini in your house of friendship, so I'm there with you, and I'm a Gemini rising, so I'm there. Yeah, we can read the Platonic Queer Relationship book together. Oh yeah, I'm down for that. I'm done because we had book club because we have a Platonic queer relationship. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Why not? Why not? Yeah, I mean, you said date your friends. I mean, you said that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because basically, if you don't date your friends, then how can you know how to date actually an intimate partner? That's true. That's true. We're practicing on each other. But I'm the femme, okay? I'm not totally femme, but I do have a feminist vibe. So, okay. Interesting. Okay. We digress. Okay. Back to May. Back to May. Okay, so we have the new moon, which we talked about. Um, what else do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about Mars in Leo, which is so different than what's been going on with Mars in Cancer? So what do you think of the Mars in Leo? Well, basically for, just a little bit of background, if you remember, let's see, Venus was in Leo in 2024, November, December, around there. And it went retrograde and it started December with Mars and Leo, and it went oh, sorry, Mars was in Leo, sorry, before, not Venus. And so then it went retrograde, and then it was in Cancer for a really long time, and it's been in Cancer, it stayed in there forever. So then that vibe was there, and it wasn't great for Mars and Cancer. It's a water sign, so it's not comfortable there because Mars wants to do things. It wants to be very motivated, and it wants to, you know, Cancer's kind of sensitive and feelings based and, all these things. So it was not comfortable, there. But it just came back into Leo recently. And so Leo is a fire sign, and that is a natural vibe. It feels good with that fire vibe, for Mars. So I've noticed that Leo is connected to the heart and opening up the heart because of that's part of the Leo is that heart, and the spine. And so it's physical. That's the astrology layer, or the physical layer, I mean. So Mars, in Leo, I've noticed there's all these things. It's different, there's different conversations around thinking. And also I have my personal Mars in Leo and Saturn in Leo rising, and that's coming up for me. So there's a lot of conversations around the heart and, perspective. And how to speak from the heart and how to sign from the heart and open up your heart and express yourself and you be more brave and how to, have courage and how to direct that in a good way. And if it needs to rebel, then how to get it, to flow in a good, loving way more than, in a spoiling way. So, not in a big egoic way. But how to fight for the right things, with your heart. So, how to show up with your heart and when it's not, when not to show up. And so that kind of power play is there. So it's still ongoing, and I'm curious to see how that would go. Do you want to add anything? I notice there's a lot more chi with Mars and Leo, like just flowing through. Like, okay, I enjoyed Mars and Cancer because I have my natal Mars and Cancer, and I got a lot of crocheting and beading done. Like, it was just like Craft City, Arizona. Okay, I was just like crafting and whatever. But I do notice with Mars and Leo, there's more of I don't want to be R-rated, but there's more libido going on. Like it's just like yeah, that's funny. But no, it is more alive and kind of does what Mars will do, which is make people kind of hot under the collar. You know what I mean? Like so that people are like kind of popping off. Yeah, more playful and flirty, yeah, that kind of thing. And I can feel that undercurrent everywhere. And so that's kind of cool because people were so placid with Mars and Cancer for so long that I forgot about Mars energy in some ways. Um, I did notice with Mars and Cancer was very protective, like protection of my children or protective of myself or whatever. But Mars and Leo is more fun and party time and play like you said playing the piano just just playful and so sporting, boating, biking, more of those kinds of things are emphasized with the Mars and Leo with because it's the heart muscle it gets, so it's like the beating heart, and it's like so it is that kind of expression of fun. Yeah, and also to add with that, we're getting back to that sense of joy. What does that joy feel like? And because now there's a lot of discussion with queer joy. What does that feel like? What is that concept? What's that look like? That experience. What's it like? There's all these things. It's a different experience. And I think that's a common theme of queer joy. And how can that be? A movement. And, that's fascinating that is showing up right now with Mars and Leo. So that's cool. That's, beautiful to see. And I'm curious how that is going to go in the future. So notice if you're watching, notice Leo, what house is that for you? What is that Mars and Leo igniting for you? Where's the joy happening? Where is that more feisty energy coming up for you? Like for me, just this is not about me. This is a forecast, but I'm giving an example. So like Mars is in my third house, and it's like I'm just reading the third house is like studying. So I'm like having all this joy studying. Like I have this pile of books I'm just studying and writing in my notebook and then discussing with my boyfriend, whatever. But it's like fun. It's super fun, and I really look forward to it, right? But if Leo was in your fourth house, you might be having fun around the house or, doing projects around the house. If it's in your fifth house, you might be having fun going out for nightlife, dancing and whatnot. So we really have to add that house layer to the sign to understand more about your specific Mars and Leo experience. For sure. And also if Mars is in the first house, for example, with my chart, that's very present in that experience because it's related to how it shows up in the world or how I show up in the world. Because I am being me. And also if, it's kind of rising, with that sign, it's like it shows where you're walking into you're becoming as far as yourself and with that rising sign because the sun is connected to shining. How can you shine? And the rising is how you become more whole in yourself, you know. So yeah, so all the Leo risings in the house, woo woo, like come on, yeah, like okay. I don't know how that transcription translated that, like like party vibe music. Okay, so I do want to discuss something, Thorn. Okay, in June. Mars will get to the end of Leo and it will go into Virgo. But first, it hits your Mars and Saturn. So I'm scared of you in June. I don't know what to do with you in June. I don't know. Well, I will have surgery in June, on June 18th. So I feel that that's part of my Mars and Leo and Saturn, and I'll be moving through that kind of annoying energy because that's right here in my chest, and that area does, it's connected with, Saturn and Leo. So it's like how I can improve that to see if, well, fingers crossed, I'll see how I can improve it. All right, well, if you get aggravated in June, don't take it out on me. Of course I won't. I won't. I will always love on you. All right. Well, if you're aggravated and you start yelling at me, I'll be like, "Oh, Mars is on your Saturn. Mars is on your Mars. I will take it on other people." Okay, not you, not you. You're one of my favorite people. I can't even take it out on you. Okay. Well, I will have the same Saturn, so we will both be like at the same time. I don't know. Maybe we can text and rant at the same time. Maybe we still know we love each other. Yeah, we can like have a fake fight. Yeah, yeah. No, but no, maybe we can do some work on the show, like some activist work or something Mars Saturn on the show, you know. Okay, yes, yes. Okay. Okay, why not? I'm down for that. I'm down for that. Okay. Okay. But for other people out there, just notice in June, Mars is going from Leo to Virgo. So not only will it change signs, but it'll change houses in your chart. So you want to notice what house we'll be looking at in June. So what do you think about Mars in Virgo? What can we expect with that energy? That's a good question. Since Virgo is Earth, and it's very slow and thoughtful, and practical and useful and focused, with specific details. I would say that you can expect more organization, more figuring out of structures and systems, how that works or doesn't work, and that will be okay to reset because Virgo wants to make sure that everything works out perfectly with, systems, keeping the systems running with the structures and details. Maybe it's not only organized, but there'll be, your planner book and your date book. You'll work on that. You'll work out the details of trips. You'll get all organized with things like that. So, um, maybe you could declutter your room, different things like that. Organize things, and then you can be like, because Virgo has that nice clean space vibe thing. That was a good list. You can make some spreadsheets. Okay. You can edit, maybe plants, herbs. Yeah. If you have a book you're writing, you can edit your book. There's like it's the time for the cleanup work, So with Mars and Leo, it's more time for the fun of doing whatever you're doing. If it's writing a book, you should spill out your manuscript like while Mars is in Leo, and then when Mars is in Virgo, you can edit that book. If you have a wardrobe you're working on, you can Mars and Leo, you can buy new clothes, get everything together, wigs, costumes, and then when Mars is in Virgo, you can organize your wardrobe. You can put everything on hangers. You can put your shoes in a thing. So first, it's time to express yourself with Mars and Leo, and then it will be time to clean up the mess, with Mars and Virgo. Yeah, editing all of that is so Virgo. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and if it's in your second house, maybe you can manage your budget or put a ledger for your budget. Oh, it is in my second house. I have Virgo in my second house. So yeah, we'll see. Do you have a ledger like for your money? No. No. But I do have receipts and I check everything and then I throw them away. So I don't have a book to put everything in, but maybe that could be a new habit. We'll have to see. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in theory, when I'm making predictions, I'm looking at how the body of humans changes during that change. And with Mars and Leo, we know that it's heating up the heart, and the spine. So it's like, it's more like, but then when it's Mars in Virgo, it moves down to this side chakra. There's a chakra right here and it's like you're going to be moving more in this like practical, like doing, like intestines. Like if people have intestine problems, they'll get kind of heated up during Mars and Virgo. So they'll be kind of like, so they'll be more particular. And did I eat something wrong? Or like, so cleaning up your food or your diet or, eating all organic would be Mars and Virgo, you know or even just starting to get into herbalism, maybe, you know. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other comments about Mars? I think that's good. Oh, one more thing I can add is because Mars is also, it's not about the energy of doing, but also not only about that, but it's also about fighting or not fighting and how to repair things and not repair things. So I can imagine and assume that with Mars in Virgo, maybe it could be also about how to repair, if something, there's a miscommunication or something, some kind of, you know, issue, then we can repair that with Mars and Virgo and kind of improve the communication because Virgo also can is controlled by or ruled by Mercury. It rules, Gemini and Virgo are both ruled by Mercury, so there could be something connected to that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Like you could do the cleanup work of the fights that happen with Mars and Leo. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think, I was reading, oh, what? I think that part is good. Oh, I was just reading recently in a book about ancient Greek. They were saying that the ancient Greeks saw war as a divine thing, so I think that's the Mars, like the Greeks honoring Mars energy, but the hero. I think Christians often talk about Mars energy as the enemy. They're always like, and then the enemy makes you want to fight, and the enemy, and it's like I was reading the other day in this Christian text, it was saying the enemy in the heavens, and I was like, oh, that is Mars for sure. Like, yeah, well, and also it could be that could be referring to their philosophy of, that God, Lucifer, disagrees with God. So that, is that Mars, that philosophy of, that could be something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think, Christians say that anything that causes like rifts in people or fights is the enemy of peace or whatever. But people think I love the planets and I don't. Like I fight the planets sometimes. Like I'm fighting against the Mars, ruining lives. I mean, like I don't know. I mean, that's remediation, right? Is like, we're more like theoretical about it. We're not like the enemy. We're like, well, Mars, no, But I mean, I think if there's any risk of Mars and Leo, it's being too bossy or expecting people to obey you. That's Mars and Leo problems. Or too much alpha, too much, or too much, like you're saying, too much bossiness or too toppy, too much, expectation, that kind of stuff. So it could be that. So, I feel like that's a shadow part of Mars and Leo, kind of thing. If it's not working, if you don't work through that, then it has to evolve, and become more whole, uh, kind of thing. Yeah. Well, I think, if you have strong Scorpio in your chart, that Mars and Leo is squaring you. If you have strong Taurus in your chart, it's squaring you. So I think for the Taurus and Scorpio people, that Mars and Leo might be tough, and maybe even Aquarius people because it's opposing them. So the fixed signs are kind of getting a little bit of a spark to them. So just watch your chart. Like, is it causing rifts in you? I know the Uranus and Scorpio generation just had Mars square it's Uranus, and so that was kind of weird. Anxiety. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I had that. Yeah, we had that together. That was awful. Yeah, we did. I hate Mars square Uranus. It's the enemy. I'm just kidding. I feel that it's a horrible challenge, but it does evolve things. And then you're like, okay, I feel a little bit freer. Yeah, I do feel like when it's over, I'm like, okay, that was interesting. Okay, something changed there. I agree, but I think the enemy has a purpose. Like, I don't know, like Mars has a purpose, so it's a purpose. So, you know. And I feel that Mars sometimes gets a bad rap because it's like all this war energy. But again, if we think about, you know, an outside perspective of like, do we structure and plan for things? Do we make a move? How do we empower ourselves, to confront things, or can we do that or not? So that's our challenge with Mars energy that we can learn through that, with our chart. Yeah, the students at school this week were talking about Mars because we're discussing Mars in the Astrological Remediation Tuesday forum. And, they were saying, well, without Mars, you'd be milk toast, just like, ooh, you'd just be like, oh, like doing, yeah, you just be like a noodle. So it's like, we need that energy. Yeah, yeah. No one likes a wet noodle. I like a dry noodle. I like a good noodle. Okay. Yeah, not a dry noodle. No, you got to cook your noodle. Okay. 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 So I think one thing I do want to make sure we discuss is in June that Jupiter goes into Cancer and it squares Saturn, Neptune in Aries. So I don't know if we want to parse that out and say Saturn and Neptune are together in Aries. What's that look like? What's Jupiter and Cancer look like? And then like discuss the squares. So what about, okay, we can parse it out. Okay, so what about Jupiter going from Gemini into Cancer? What do you think? Well, since that's, you know, my natal Jupiter, I'm excited to and curious to see what this is gonna bring. I'm so curious. Because that's the specific day when that transit happens, June 9th. That's the day after my birthday. Yeah. Okay. Inch, inch, inch. Okay. So anyway, I'm just curious to see, that year because Jupiter tends to be, in a sign for a year. So, Jupiter in Cancer, I could imagine everything related to community because Cancer is all about community and advocacy and caretaking people and taking care of people and not only valuing their people, but ourselves and our home and, our identity and how it connects with home and our lineage and our family lineage. And so that is a sense of family, what it means. So it's like, it could be blood family, it could be a chosen family, any kind of family or context related to family. We can reframe that relationship or re-envision that. You have to understand that Jupiter is about expansion. It's not only about contraction. Well, it's not really about contraction at all. That's Saturn's job. So Jupiter is expanded, and so I'm curious to see how that emotional space comes out, and that security and that sensitivity and that empathy and compassion and activism. I think there's some activism there, and I'm curious to see how that will show up. It could look like maybe more community work with housing homeless people or who have less access, or food banks. There could be a lot of things, many different ways how that could show up. So I'm just curious to see. So do you want to add anything with that? Yeah, I want to talk about this word I learned recently. It's called fictive kinship. Have you heard of that word? Fictive kinship, which is, that's a new word for me. I like it. It's chosen family, you know, and it was saying that people who have more chosen family are happier than people who only go with their birth family. So when we choose people according to our charts or what matches up with our energy, then we are more happy than if we only hang around with the family we were born into. So I want to expand the Jupiter and Cancer to say, expand your chosen family in this year, and really decide who you're going to cherish as your family. And you can grow that in this year. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. It's very strong there. So it will be a big, expansive, beautiful, loving energy. I think you could get into cooking, food, you could become a foodie for the year, go to different restaurants, have dinner parties, so home stuff. Yeah, community dinners, potlucks could be, popular, yeah, buffets. Ooh, buffet! I want to go to a buffet. Yeah, I love brunch. Oh, brunch. So maybe it could be more of a brunch. So I was thinking from a political perspective and an activist perspective. I was thinking about how I don't want to lose weight while Jupiter's in Cancer because I want to eat. And so I was thinking about I want to start I'm reading this book called Fat Activism, because I am a little chubby. Want to see? See, I got a little belly. Um, and I have Jupiter and Cancer rising. Honestly, it's like it's a belly. It's like a laughing Buddha chart, really. But I was thinking about having some activism on the Moira Press page about astrophysiognomy and different bodies, right? We could have some, activist people with different body positivity frameworks talking about their chart and how they look like their chart, and, how astrology supports different body styles. And, because with Jupiter and Cancer, I don't want to try to lose weight. I want to eat. Yeah, you want to become able to appreciate your body, for what it's naturally is. Yeah. Well, and I just think when the energy is there to enjoy food and there's a bunch of chi being fed to the stomach, you don't want to try to avoid or fight that energy. You want to try to break through and enjoy that energy, right? Like grow with it, so, you know, plus that reminds me, of one show. It's a TV streaming show I'm watching on Max app, and it's called the show is called The Worst Cook of America. So there's two chefs, and they're famous and they're well known, and they're both teachers, and they're awful, people, these people who cook awfully. Anyway, they're teaching them. Well, one of those chefs is really famous, and it's typically often mentioned as saying, if you cook your food with fear, then that food will be rooted in fear, and you will feel that fear in the food. But if you cook your food with enjoyment, with joy, you will feel that joy in your food, in your body, and you'll take it in. And I was thinking, oh, that's a good point. It's important to, reframe that, and, how to set that up. So that's another thing with Jupiter and Cancer. It could be a way to reset that relationship with food, or how to improve, the body positivity with food, or how to, for sure. Yeah. I think it's a good time to have a cuddly body. I mean, it's like, yeah, why not? It's like to be Cancer looking is to be more cuddly and round. That is the Cancer look. You know, if you go to Michael's Crafts, you see women with the Cancer body or people with the Cancer body shopping and they're all round. And that's the crafting, sewing body. It just is, So in astrology, we celebrate those times and we don't try to fight it like, oh no, Jupiter and Cancer don't grow too much. Like as a mega manifesting person, I would say like take hold and get into food for a year and then you can always lose the weight later. Like, I don't know. Plus, that reminds me with the book you're reading, and another book that I got a while ago, maybe it's time to read it. I don't know. It's called The Body is Not an Apology. Oh, I have that book. I've read that book. So it's all about the similar theme, with really accepting your body because I do have cancer. I do have a cancer belly, so it is not obvious, but I do have one. And I've learned to accept it. It won't change. It's just there. And I've learned to appreciate it more now. It's similar to you, and I understand it. Okay, so let's discuss how Saturn is square Jupiter in June, the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So I think, there is going to be some tension in June about how much to go into that Cancer, uh, way. Like people will want to eat, they'll be feeling it, but they'll be like, oh, I don't know, should I go ahead and eat or should I try to lose weight? Or there's going to be this like back forth with the Saturn Jupiter. And maybe not only with that, but also, it could be when we think about Jupiter, it's also about luck, big luck and, abundance. And so, abundance, and it's not about, deprivation. So it could be that people who feel, who do you feel emotionally safe with? Who can you expand more with? Who can you be secure with? Who are your people? It could be related to money too. Maybe reframing the relationship with money, and security and feeling, looking at that. So maybe mutual aid is a thing. Money, resources, and support. How can that, you know, aggravation lead to kind of, recontainment of resources? So just a thought. Yeah, I think, we have to look at June as a little bit of a weird time from an astrology perspective because when Jupiter squares Saturn, there will be tension over where do I grow? Where do I hold back? Where do I put boundaries? Where do I grow? So there's going to be like, should I grow here or boundaries? And so there's going to be a little aggravation, but then after June, that Jupiter and Cancer will break through Saturn and just be on its way. Right. And after June, that will be more, the flow will be there, for a year. So it's just June that is kind of an odd month. So it's so well, I think people in general should study body positivity theories in June because if they're feeling like, oh, I don't want to eat too much with Jupiter and Cancer, or I don't want to be too much, or, so study that like activism around loving your body. And then also for relationships, study boundaries around family and chosen family. If you study boundaries, then you can enjoy the people you have, after like who you choose in June that you can keep for, the year and also to add with that, not only boundaries, but also, the approach with co-relation, or co-creating relationships. If it's self-created or run by another, or that relationship is co-created. So it's like honestly, I don't feel like that's enough, not there's not enough discussion about that because mostly the focus is on either on me and myself is creating this or you're creating this, but also there's this relationship that's being co-created. And that's something to discuss. So I'm just maybe that could be another topic that really shows up in June. And that could be a thing, some work on relationships. Yeah. Yeah. So I think let's watch in June for that weirdness. Now, notice in your chart, do you have anything at 0 or one of cardinal signs. That's Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, because that square is happening at like 0, 1 of the cardinal signs. So notice, is that really on your chart really hard, hardcore? And if so, yeah, that's going to really hit you and you're going to have some weirdness, So notice anyone 0, 1 cardinal. I'm sure my Libra house in the third is going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be feeling it. Yeah. Yeah. Notice the houses that'll be hitting too. So yeah, for sure. Okay. We have 5 minutes left. Anything you want to discuss? We talked about the new moon in Gemini. We got that full moon. Is there the full moon in June? So June 11th. Let me check my calendar. Hold on 1 second. I'm an old man, so I have to look at my calendar. Hold on. Stars. Look at all the stars. Stars. Oh, that's cool. I love that. It's a star. Okay. So the full moon is in June and it will be in Sagittarius. Typically, the sun in Gemini would have the moon in Sagittarius because those are polar opposites. So always that happens if the sun is either in Taurus, then the full moon would be in Scorpio. And if conversely, if the sun is in Sag, then that means the full moon would be in Gemini, that kind of thing. So that's the idea that's a kind of approach, with the signs. But anyway, so the point is that with June, uh, the full moon would be in Sagittarius with the sun in Gemini. So, I could conceive of that as being a type of adventure vibe. Wanting to play, maybe short trip, maybe a conversation that's kind of quick and fun with some brainstorming and that kind of thing. And I'm curious to see what happens that week. Okay, so wait, okay, so that is going to be the sun will be at 19 degrees Gemini. Okay, 19 degrees. So notice in your chart, do you have anything at 19 Gemini, 19 Sag, or even 19 Pisces or 19 Virgo? It will be hitting your chart really closely. So, like Thorne's saying, there'll be a lot of talking because it's Sun in Gemini, but then there'll be an adventure flair with the moon in Sagittarius. So maybe driving on a short trip and then talking while you're on the trip, or um, yeah, or listening to music while driving, something like that. Yeah, so how do you set, what kind of intentions do you set on a full moon as compared with a new moon? Well, I used to do that. It's been a while. I stopped doing that because it's more of like just it's I just more commune with the energy and see what comes up and I just work with it there. So, but I mean, for the people who do rituals, it's like I don't know what you do on a full moon. A full moon, it could be a ritual would be since the sun is in Gemini and the moon's in Sag, it could be, writing down or typing or creating something and then releasing it with, fire because, Sag is fire. It's a fire sign. So, oh yeah, you could burn it. You could write something and then burn it. Yes. Or another idea would be write something and then or make something and then if you want to blow it up, like a fireworks, kind of thing, you could go to the beach and then blow it up there, not in the city. Because Sag is about adventure, something fun. That's a good idea. Yeah. So yeah, so that's a thing. Okay, well that's a good a picnic or could write something and then burn it and then have a small party or something like that. Okay, well that's a good place to stop. We got through May and June pretty good, I think. Yeah. It's yeah, I think we got to the beginning of June. Maybe maybe next time we can start with the middle of June or something like that. So just so you know, next week I will be gone. I'll be at Norwalk, so I won't be here, but we 2 weeks we will meet again. And that'll be 2 weeks. Okay. Good luck with Norwalk. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, yeah. I would love to hear the stories from Norwalk, so you'll have to tell me. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate you. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate you too. All right, I love you. All right, I love you too. All right, bye.